Everyone, welcome to March's Social Club. When we have Pauline Rogers here in the background, you will get the chance to meet her in just a few minutes.
Yes.
So
we have quite a few friends happening here, so we're just going to give it a second because there's a lot of people logging in.
yeah, it always takes a few minutes for people to pop in. We have a pretty good group here, and so Pauline Rogers from Pauline's Quilters World has come all the way from Australia.
Yeah.
Brisbane, Australia, to be specific, Queensland. And well, we've had the pleasure of being with her and her Simon Pratt, which is also behind the camera here. You'll get a chance to meet him in a little while.
Can they see us? Can you see us? Luca, can you see us on the computer? Okay, as long as you can see us and you're seeing the two screens, we're good.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Just got a little nervous. Sorry, guys.
So Pauline has a lot of great content here. So we're gonna get going quickly to get through just some things coming up here at Aurora Sewing Center. For those that are generally local to Western New York, we have a few slots left for tomorrow's full day class. I think we have 4 slots. That's with Pauline and of course Simon and Alyssa. I'm going on vacation, so I'm going to miss out on tomorrow's program. But my partner here, you're in good hands, of course, with Pauline too.
Absolutely.
Her program.
It's $149.99 for the class. There is a supply list. After you sign up for the class, you'll receive the supply list. You do have some prep work before tomorrow. So if you're not sure and you're trying to make that decision, make it in the next 30 minutes so you can make sure you get what you need from the store and have it ready for tomorrow. It is a packed class, meaning educational wise. So you do have to be ready to rock and roll because we are starting right at 9:30. The doors will open at 9. Myself and my staff will be there to help you bring in your machine. So you do have to bring a machine, and your machine does have to have presser foot pressure. So if your machine doesn't have that capability, sorry.
Yeah. So you want to be able to adjust your presser foot pressure, and Pauline will talk a little bit about that as we go here in just a bit. Bring your machine, your standard sewing supplies. It is at the Hampton Inn here in East Aurora, which is just half a block away. There was so much interest in attendance, couldn't fit in the store, so we shift gears, and now we have the ballroom over at the Hampton Inn here in East Aurora.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's
talk about today's specials. So we have a bundle. All these specials are on our website, and I have a feeling I made an error in one of these slides. So the bundle, with Pauline being here, she let us have this great, phenomenal special deal that we have on her products. You would receive the dot to dot, the feather templates, her quilt as you go handbook, the set F template, sorry, and I was going off pictures, the ultimate sasher large, and then the quilt as you go piecing sashing system. Normally it's $247.94. We have it on sale for $185.96.
And the reason this bundle exists, you are going to find all out about it with Pauline. There's reason behind why those products are on the screen and why you consider getting them all.
Yes. All right, so then we have, if you want to buy them separately because maybe you already have certain things, then you can purchase them off the website and you get your 15% off. So you either buy the bundle with all the things, or if you want to pick and choose, you get your 15.
And I would say if you're, again, local to any one of our 3 stores, you choose to come in because you're watching this right now or maybe tomorrow morning, you choose to come in to buy product, you may find that certain things are missing because we got cleaned out. This has been such a great program. So we are just taking orders. Just wanted to make mention of that. So don't fret.
Yes.
But I also wanted to caution you to just not assume if you run into the store, we will have everything. Okay. but we will get it very quickly. Pauline and Simon have already worked out those logistics for us.
Yes. So then you can, the other items, and these are all items Pauline's going to talk about. So the glue, the Roxanne's glue basted, Monty Poly thread, smoke or clear. We have both. We had both. Clover, fork pins. We had those again, all on order. The sew slip mat that you're going to want. Those are here. Then you can buy the book, or the Hobbs batting is on order, but we have two sizes in that. There's a crib size, and then there's also queen. So it's 45 by 60, if I'm not mistaken, and 90 by 108 are the two sizes of the batting. And once you hear Pauline, you are going to want one of everything. That's what was happening. Yep. I mean, that really has been happening all day, past 3 days. So what's coming up at Aurora Sewing Center?
Okay, for those in New York or around New York, we have for the very first time the all New York State Shop Hop. It starts May 1st. It goes all the way through the end of June. So it's a 2-month shop hop for all participating shops in New York State, which is over 55 shops. Mm-hmm. Now, just like any shop hop, there's some sort of passport. But with this shop hop, statewide, you need the magazine, because in the magazine you get the passport. So you get a full magazine with a lot of details on prizes and the shops, and there are 6 patterns included that are part of this. So for $12.95, you're getting all this information, the passport, and 6 patterns. So, and there's other content in there as well. It's time to pre-order them. We will have them the 3rd week in March. No matter what shop you go to, you can get these. We're one of the shops, our 3 stores. Yep. And if you're not in New York State, well, good reason to come visit us and visit some of those other small businesses, quilt shops throughout the area, and say hello. All right, and tomorrow we're doing double events. Coincidentally, we have a virtual embroidery event with Dime, Ashley Jones, one of their primary educators, which we love Ashley.
Yes, we do.
She is teaching She Shed, and that is tomorrow at noon. Now, don't fret if you're busy. It's a recorded program. You can go back and watch it over the course of the weekend. You have 48 hours. You do, however, have to register for this. So if you haven't, you can jump on our website, go down to events, and it's free registration.
All right. Well, next month we have Joyce Hughes joining us, and she is an educator teaching you all about thread painting. So if you are interested, this is our April Sewcial Club, which would be just for the 1 month. If you joined us for today, it's the same thing. It's a 1 day, our virtual class, our virtual Sewcial Club meeting, Thursday, April 3rd from 2 to 4, and you will see Joyce Hughes show you how to thread paint panels and how to use raw edge applique. And it is amazing the work that she has created and does on these panels, and makes it a completely different look. So that is Thursday, April 3rd from 2 to 4, and that is our Sewcial Club in April for $29.99. Now with Joyce Hughes coming, she is staying and doing a hands-on class just like Pauline is. So the next day on Friday, April 4th from 10 to 4 at our East Aurora location is the hands-on Monarch with Mexican sunflower panel. So that panel is in the kit, and she's also got all the items that you need for it and the thread. So part of that kit is in the class. So that's part of that fee. You join for $149. You get the kit. You do need to bring your machine, and then there's going to be a supply list of other items that you do need to attend. It's at our East Aurora store. Now, if it fills up like Pauline, I will go talk to the Hampton and see if we can get a bigger space for us to accommodate others. But this is going to be a great program. I saw her at Market, and I saw her trunk show, and I cannot believe what you can do with thread. It's stunning. It's really a masterpiece of art.
Gives it a
whole other look.
Yep. Okay, so about almost a month away now April 11th and 12th, that's a Friday, Saturday, is our 2-day Camp Stitch Away. So this is a 2-day hands-on program that we're putting together with 4 different educators. We have Sarah Thomas on long arm quilting. She's going to be doing ruler work, free motion quilting, and some stippling. You're going to be doing it. We're providing the long arms. And then we also have Sandra Swick. She's going to be doing presser feet and decorative stitches, so some unique stitches and those less common feet that are available for all machines. And then we have Joanne Leonard on embroidery. She's going to be playing with jumbo stitches and a variety of different customized quilting embroidery techniques that you're gonna be doing right on a Bernina 990. And then we have Gail Yellen on the serger. So not just overlock and flat lock stitches, but using decorative threads and playing with the chain and cover stitches and combination stitches. This program is all about technique and exploring different techniques and learning on our equipment.
Yeah.
You will make something, but you will never complete something in the class or this program. It's not about making a project. It's about learning, exploring, and getting exposed to all sorts of new processes and stitches and feet and
Technique and
technology.
Yeah, technology.
So, you know, these are educators coming from all over the country. We will be at Salvatore's Hospitality Event Center, which is right at the Transit Road, right nearby the Transit Road I-90 exit, which is about 3-4 miles from the Buffalo Airport if you're keen on flying in.
We do have some rooms.
Yep, we have, there's plenty of hotels and eateries in the area. We're going to be starting at 8:30 in the morning, going right until 5:30, so 2 full days.
We're breaking up into 4 groups, so you'll rotate round robin. You'll rotate one day, you'll do 2 classes, and then the next day you'll do the 2 opposite classes, but you'll stick with your group and go through the 2 days of all of the machine types. We supply the kits, we supply the machines. All you have to do is show up.
So threads, needles, machines, fun, educators.
Food for the day.
Yep.
So we have a continental breakfast and then also a nice hot lunch both days that we are supplying.
Okay, so if you haven't heard us before, every Tuesday at 5 o'clock, we do a live sale right here in this studio. There's no telling what we're selling because we don't know most of the time.
Nope.
It's our opportunity to turn over some volume and, you know, short bolts, new collections, new product that comes in and we get an opportunity to share with you.
Sometimes we have samples made and like a whole kit for something, you name it, it's out. We have it.
And it varies.
Every week.
Sometimes we have fabric as low as $7 a yard. Last week, or actually, I'm sorry, it feels like 2 weeks ago, but it was Tuesday night. We had a variety of product at 40% off. So the way to participate in this is you want to download the Aurora Sewing Center app. So we have an app, whether you're on an Apple program, a phone or iPad, or a Google Android type program. You're going to go to your app store, download our app, register. You're going to put your name in and your email. You definitely want to get your email, because if you don't and you try to get on the app, it'll work, but we won't know who you are. So if you try to buy something,
you won't never get your product.
It'll just go to cyber world, right? And we can't get it to you. So we need to know who you are. But every Tuesday at 5 o'clock, and then periodically we'll throw in a unique show.
Yep.
Something different. But well, if you haven't checked us out, check us out. In store right now, clearance fabric, $8 a yard at all 3 store locations.
Yep.
Fat quarters, 10 for $14.99. You pick.
And we have a variety at all 3 stores, and all 3 stores have different fat quarters. So there's a lot out there.
Yep. And then we have St. Patrick's fabric for the Irish out there, 20% off. And we also have our Easter fabric.
do.
We just decided that
No, at
we
8
the
o'clock
bunnies
this morning, the bunny decided to
need
go
to
on
hop
sale.
away. So all right, there's all sorts of machine specials with the new month. Brother has a variety of top-end machines on sale with bundles through the 20th of the month for Brother. So the Avenir comes with the luggage, thread set, education through Angela Wolf, and some digitization software.
So a bundle of savings of almost $6,000.
Yep.
Is that one?
Yes.
Mhm.
Then the 6-needle multi-needle, the PR 680W or the PR 1055X, the 10 needle, have bundles with them and of course the savings there. And then the Stellaire, whether it's the embroidery only, which is the EX2 on the left, or the XJ2, which is the combo embroidery and sewing machine. If you were to purchase either one of those, you get the free Scan and Cut SDX 325.
That's an awesome.
Which is an awesome little package there. Bernina, if you are a Bernina person, you got 20% off on most all machines. And that includes the long arms and the sergers and the sewing machines and embroidery machines. And then the feet and the big books, 20% off. So those are, the machines you want to go into your local dealer if you're not local to us. The feet, well, you can get them from us, your website, what have you. Baby Lock, there are 4 select machines that are 10% off this month. The Allegro, the Sashiko 2, the Soprano, and Ballad. So your Soprano and Ballad are sewing quilting. Your Allegro is 2, but the Soprano and Ballad, albeit a smaller throat space, are heavier duty machines.
Yes.
I'd word it that way. And then Baby Lock 10% off quilting accessories. Okay, now Janome, variety of machine bundles too. The 9480, Memory Craft 9480. You get the Travel Mate 200. It's the smaller machine at the bottom. It's $1,200 that they're giving to you if you buy the 9480. The Memory Craft 6700, you get the luggage set and a scissor set. Same with the Skylines. You get the luggage or luggage and scissor set. And then I'll use the word smaller machines are priced right. Okay, now the Bandicoot is a build it yourself cabinet. So it would ship to you if you were to order it in multiple boxes. I believe it's 3 boxes, and you assemble it or find a good friend to assemble it. You have the 3 different color options, white, gray, or teak. And then the other promotion for the month of March is if you purchase a Kangaroo cabinet, which has lifetime warranty of the Wallaby, the Kangaroo cabinet itself, or the Aussie, you get a free Kiwi. The Kiwi is that little cabinet on the lower right that has the cutting mat and the ironing mat that comes with it. Plus, it's a set of drawers. So it's a little wheelie, and we actually keep one in our classroom here, in our virtual classroom. It's just very convenient. It hides all the goodies, creates a cutting station, ironing station, could even drop your serger on it, or another machine if you're a big embroiderer. So it's convenient.
And it folds up, you push it away, that little lift on the side there goes down to be more compact, or you put it up for you to have your little cutting and ironing station.
Yeah. So it's a $700
free cabinet.
So
And that's it.
That's a lot.
Yep.
So we are very excited to have Pauline Rogers and Simon with us here today. Well, we've had the opportunity
for a few days.
Have them with us for the week. Really have enjoyed it, and the customers have. And there were so many of you that left out of here within the past hour or so and said, I want to go home and listen to Pauline again.
So they ran home. They did. There's a lot of people who ran
So-
home, just left this morning to go home and watch this.
There's a lot of information, a lot of newer information that maybe some of you haven't heard before, technique and such. So we're going to get out of the way
And then
and turn it over to Pauline.
And Pauline, during the program, we have Luca, who's behind the camera with us. If you ask questions and you're typing them, she will ask Pauline. But then also at the end or at some point in the program, we will do a Q&A and we'll open up. We'll say, okay, you know, we're opening up unmute yourselves and you can talk and ask your questions. You need to unshare the screen.
Is it still being shared?
Yeah.
Oh, up there it is. But not
Yep.
up there.
Yep. So just so you, so here is Pauline. You only need one chair, correct? And then I'll scoot this one up for you. Is that what you want? All right. Well, give us a second and Pauline will be in the shot with us.
Okay, cool.
Well, hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you, Alicia and Scott. That was absolutely brilliant. I want to buy a lot of stuff and take home to Australia with me.
We'll let you.
Good, good. And it's been an absolute delight to be here for the last, 4 or 5 days. And we got to go to Niagara Falls.
Yes,
which
you
was
did.
brilliant. And this morning I had to walk outside before my session started just to stand in the snow. I had to do it. So I'm a little bit whiskey and everything from being that.
You got 3 seasons in one.
I did.
I was just gonna say, welcome to Buffalo. Sometimes you can get all of them in one
It was
one day.
wonderful. It was wonderful. But let me introduce you to Simon. Simon is my business manager and he looks after me as we travel around the world. But he's also the brains behind PQW because I've been quilting for a very long time, 40 years. I'm self-taught. I've probably ignored every rule in the book, but I've developed my way of doing things. So for 10 years, I've been developing my quilt as you go technique. Now, my quilt as you go technique takes us to another level. But when Simon come on board, he's a graphic design engineer. So his brains have helped me develop a lot of our different templates.
Yeah, we got a lot of high-tech machinery that Pauline needed somebody
I didn't know how
with a
to
little
use.
tech expertise to come on board.
Yeah.
Was that like 4.5 years ago?
Yes, totally.
Yeah. So
And we've now developed what we call the QISS program. You can see the sign behind me. Get to recognize that because it is a whole new way to make quilts. We've based it on the QISS system. You know, keep it simple, but I know quilters are not stupid. They're not stupid at all. So we've made it a KISS with a Q. Quilting is so simple. So I'm going to take you through now the process of how we make our quilts, one block at a time, how we quilt with our feed dogs up, our stitch length set, and we just make a slight adjustment on your regular sewing machine and you can be a perfect quilter immediately. You just need to understand what our machines can do for us. So we're going to take you right through that and hopefully teach you a lot about how easy quilting can be, one block at a time.
and it is because I'm not a quilter, but I've been following you around now for a couple of years and
Yep,
watching your demonstrations, and now I'm even quilting.
you are. And we're going to show you your quilt at the end.
Ah,
So
very good.
don't leave till you see Simon's quilt because you will not believe that it is a quilt as you go quilt. So to introduce you to our QISS system, we have this beautiful blue and white quilt behind us here. You can't see the full length of it, but this is a quilt as you go sampler quilt that we've designed and made, and we are running this online on our YouTube channel as a free worldwide lesson. So it is all about teaching you our method of quilting, and it is all about teaching you how to join your quilts together, quilt as you go. And we've made all different sorts of sashings and trims on the quilt so you can adapt any quilt pattern into a Quilt-as-you-go quilt. So we're going to start off showing you the quilting section first.
Yeah. You show them through the steps
Yep.
and that website, www.pqw.com.au. And you can
Thank you.
find out all about it.
Yep.
Take it away.
Thank you. Thank you. So what we're going to do is come over and I'm going to show you how we put our design onto our fabric. I'm going to talk to you really about some important notions that I use, because I found when I was developing this technique, one of the things that was giving me a lot of problems was the batting. Because we're quilting one block at a time, I found when I cut up regular battings, what was happening when I'd quilt the blocks, my blocks would all stretch out of proportion. And when I joined the blocks together, it would leave too much bulk at my joins, wherever I was joining the blocks together. So I'm going to come over to the other camera and I'm going to show you a little bit about what we use. We do use the Hobbs Heirloom double-sided fusible batting, this batting here. Now, I use this because I'm not getting any of the stretching. I'm not getting bulk out of it. This is fusible both sides. So take it out of the packet, fuse it between your 3 layers with a hot, dry iron. The fusible doesn't stick to your iron. If you accidentally put the iron on it, it's not going to mess up your iron. If you iron it down and you make a mistake, you could peel it off and re-iron it. It just makes a beautiful finish to your quilts. I'm then going to introduce you to our dot-to-dot system. This is what we get a lot of our curved designs from. I'll show you all about those. Then I'm going to show you our feather templates, because I know everybody can quilt feathers on their domestic machine. If you are challenged in any way with free motion quilting and not being able to get your stitches even and get a nice design happening, the way we quilt with our controlled quilting technique will give you perfect stitches and perfect shapes. So we'll take you through that. And then I'm going to introduce you to another set of our templates, because we design lots of different ones. These ones here we are our call them set F, but this is a tulip shape, and on the other side we have the tulip bud and we have the leaves. So from this we can create so many different designs, and I'll show you some of these stitched out. But to start with our batting, I've got my cream fabric, my navy fabric, and my batting. This is my batting here. I put the 3 layers together and then with a hot, dry iron, slowly press. Don't iron fast, because you need to get plenty of heat into the fabric to make the adhesive start to grab to the fabric. It's got to dissolve it down to grab to the fabric. Move it slow. Once you've got that one side done, turn to the other side and press the second side. Don't use steam, because that will dissolve the fusible. Now, the nice thing about this batting, through the whole process of the quilting and the joining together, the batting stays very, very thin. Once we've finished the quilt, and whenever you wash your quilt for the first time, all the fusible washes out and the batting fluffs up like a normal batting. So it is really beautiful to use. I'm now going to draw the design onto the fabric. I do like to iron them up first to get the fabric all nicely together. I don't want my fabric to stretch. And as you can see with this batting, I'm getting no stretching out of it at all, like I would out of a lot of other batting. So this is why I choose this one. I'm going to mark the design onto the fabric. I'm going to start showing you the feathers. And I'm going to recommend, this is the pencil that I like to use. I'll put this one up. I like to use the Bohin fabric marking pencil. Now, I use this marking pencil because I need to know that I can get all the lines out of my fabric, no matter what color I draw on. Comes with white lead, but you can also purchase the grey lead. So when we looked at that quilt at the beginning, the QISS quilt, I'd marked all the quilting designs with the grey lead, and I've washed the quilt and all the lines wash out. I got caught out once with a marking pencil. I read the instructions. It told me do not heat set. I never had to iron the borders that I was quilting. I didn't realise the light on my sewing machine would give enough heat to set the chemical that must have been in the marker. And just the light of my sewing machine must have set the chemical. It must have given off enough heat to set the chemical. And within a couple of years, my quilt was rotting. It just destroyed the quilt completely. So I went out to find a pencil that had no chemical in it, and the bowhin has served me beautifully ever since. So now, with our feather templates, we get 3 templates in the pack, because all of our feathers need to be different sizes, different shapes. So this is one of the templates. This is another one of them. You can see they're all different shapes. And I am delighted to say a lot of people that have long arm machines are buying these feather templates to put the feathers onto their fabric to be able to long arm them. So they're popular for all sorts of reasons. I'm going to go to the light side. I think it'll show up better for you. I'm going to use the grey lead. I'm going to draw the spine. Now, if I made a mistake drawing this, I can use the eraser that's in the end of your pencil, and you can erase the lines out. And I could redraw. Now, when I draw my feathers, I find if I start drawing from the top, my feathers scoop down too far. I like to start drawing at the bottom, and I work up to the top. I put the sharp point of the feather shape against the spine, and I draw around. Now I could draw the same size up here and make my feathers with the shape being exactly the same, or I can change the shape or the size as I come up. What I do is I like to make this part of the curve lock in to the previous row of stitching. I'm not worrying what's happening down here. I'm just connecting this curve here to this line that I've drawn. And I do suggest if you're going to try doing these feathers, do it on paper first. Get used to drawing them on paper. Going to put this one in here and draw around. Now, a big one's not going to fit there because it's getting too close to my edge. I might come up and put another small one in here. Just nest them in together. Come from the spine around to that line. Now I can put a bigger one in. I can now, that's getting too close to the edge, so I'll put another small one in here. And around. Now I can put a large one in. But now what I'm getting is I'm getting a big gap here, and I don't want that gap, so I'm going to turn this around so it nests together. You may notice this is the template edge here. This is my previous line. I'm not concerned about that. I'm only concerned about where this curve meets that previous line. I draw around. When I get up to the top here, I'm going to swing the template around till it comes back down. This point now is meeting this line. And there I have that feather. And we just keep drawing, fitting them all in together. You can have so much fun drawing the feathers. And the stitching is the easiest part. I could use one of the other shapes, one of the other templates, and I can come back and nest that in against it. But once again, you can see that this is the template edge. This is my previous line. I'm concentrating on this curve here, matching that previous curve. Draw around. When I come back down here, I'm going to twist it back around and follow that shape. So you can adjust as you go and put different shapes, different sizes in to make your feathers flow however you would like them to look on your beautiful quilt. Draw the next one. Turn this around. and come down. So there's one side. When I'm ready to do the other side, flip the template over, draw this one here, put a bigger one here to start with, and we just keep drawing till we fill in that whole shape. Now, when we quilt this, you know, I would continue up here. When we quilt this, with our feed dogs up, our open toe foot on, we set our stitch length to whatever stitch length you want to quilt at. I usually use a stitch length 3, and I'm going to start here. I'm going to stitch around the curve, come back, come down this spine, come back up this one, back around. I'm going to go around here, back over this previous row of stitching, back up, around, back over the previous row of stitching, and continue on. And you can't get lost with this. You just keep stitching back over a previous row of stitching. Now, I do strongly recommend when we're quilting, using this control quilting technique, like we have these feathers here, you'll notice that up through the spine here, the white thread really stands out. I like to use a really fine thread. I love to use the wonderful 80 weight thread. And as I said before, as I've quilted up here, I've come around, I've traveled back over the spine and come around again. Now, traveling back over a previous row of stitching with a fine thread, it helps to enhance the design. It builds up the layers, but I find if I use a thick thread, I don't get that nice look. So use a nice quality fine thread. You can use in your bobbin whatever you would like. I forget on this one, when I used this one, quilted this one, I could have had the white thread in the bobbin, but I chose to have the monopoly, sorry, around the wrong way, the monopoly invisible thread in my bobbin. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment, but this is a beautiful thread to use. This one here, I used a nice fine variegated thread because I wanted a bit of colour change. And if you look at that, you can see where I've stitched back over the previous row, the threads just sit on top of each other beautifully. You can stitch around, and you can tie off your threads if you wish to. If you choose not to quilt back over a previous line, you can tie off your threads in any method that you would like. But I just love to quilt back over a previous row and just keep stitching. And once we make that adjustment on your sewing machine, you're going to find it very, very easy to do. So that's just a little bit about the feathers. Now, this design here has come from the tulip template set. So we just simply put the template onto the fabric and we trace through this. The templates have a split in them, and we trace through the split in the template. And that's created from the tulip template, but you don't really see the tulip there. We've just used different components of that template. And in here, I've used the leaf, which is on the back side here. There's different size leaves. So you can download from our website, which we mentioned that at the beginning, which is pqw.com.au. You can download free pattern sheets for a lot of these designs. So you don't have to think about what designs to create. You can download them as free patterns. And you can create so many different designs from one template set. But let me introduce you to the dot-to-dot system, because that is amazing. It's a really brilliant collection of different templates to be able to show you how to give all of your curve designs on. So the dot-to-dot system is where we get all of our curve shapes from. In this pack, we have 5 templates. We have 2 templates. Where's my little bit of fabric here? I'll turn it over so you can see all the templates. We have 2 templates that are worked on a grid system. We've got the 1-inch grid. This template has little holes in it. This one is a 1.5-inch grid. So if I was going to mark onto this fabric, whatever grid I'm going to use my bowhin pencil. I'm just going to mark the dots. Just go through and mark the dots. Yes, it will take you a few minutes to mark this up, but it won't take you long at all to draw your design. So go through and mark the dots, and that's not showing up brilliantly for you. So I've got some designs started here on paper, which will allow you to see it a lot better. So once we've marked the dots up, let's put that out of the road for the moment so you can see the other shapes. In that pack, we're getting all of these curve designs. This is where we get our circles from. This is where we get our orange peels and melons from. In all different curves, we have different sizes and different shapes. So once we've marked the dots onto the fabric, but we're just going to use paper to start with. Start with this one. You can see we've got the dots already marked out here. I'll get this small template, align, where we'll line this up. We've already drawn on this paper, so I'm aligning the dots up back down here. Back down along here, and I'm drawing across the top edge. Move it up, line your dots up. So you're always lining dots up, drawing. Lining your dots up. Keep moving up, always aligning the previous row of dots with the rows that you've already marked on. Then when you want to do the other way, you flip the template over, line your dots up and come back the other way. And it's a really, really simple technique. We're going to turn it around and come back the other way. Just keep moving and lining up your dots. When you've got that done, lining up those ones, this is what it would look like when quilted out. So all we're going to do is sew the wave. Your stitches will stay even because your feed dogs are up. Your machine is set up for regular sewing, but we're going to make one little adjustment. Other designs that you could do here, we have the clamshells. So we've marked out the inch, but we wanted a 2-inch clamshell. So we've used this 2-inch one. Is that the 2-inch? No, that's the 3-inch. Sorry, I've picked up the wrong one. So you're just simply going to line your dots up back down here. Now, when we draw something like a clamshell, we're not drawing up and down. We're not drawing the hill and the valley. We're just drawing the hill. The hill, and then move your template across and draw the other side. And that's what's going to give you the clamshell. Draw to here, stop, draw to here, move your template over and do the next one. Download the free pattern book, but better still, go to our YouTube channel and learn how to use all of these different tools that we're showing you to create beautiful, beautiful quilting designs. Here we've got the circles. So when we've done the circles on this one, we've used this template. Sorry, I know it's hard to see on this white. We've lined the dots up. We've drawn around, lining the dots up, draw around, flip the template over and come back the other way. Now, when we quilt this, we're going to start at the top and we're going to quilt the wave. We're not going to quilt a circle. That can become too hard. Just quilt the wave, then come back the other way. You can do your clamshells, you can do your orange peels, you can do waves with it. You can also do this sort of design. So on this one, we've used the small template. We marked the inch grid. We drew around, and then when we wanted to create this shape, we used this bigger template. We lined up the dots, we drew the lines, move it down to the next row of dots, draw the line, move it down. Then when we come this way, you just keep moving it down, lining up your dots. And then all you do is start and you stitch on the line, and you can create beautiful, beautiful, beautiful designs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the machine turned around for me, and then I'm going to, we've got this design marked up, which is the orange peel. We're going to now go to the machine. I'm going to talk about the setting, and we're going to quilt this design. I won't quilt all of it. I'm just going to quilt a little bit of it so you get the understanding of what we need to do with the machine to be able to quilt a beautiful design without any pressure of trying to free motion quilt. Because a lot of people can be very intimidated by free motion quilting. So while the machine's getting set up for me, I want to show you this one. This one comes from another one of our template sets, set C. Once again, a clamshell. So I've just nested them all together and stitched, and really it's just straight line stitching with a bit of curve. So I'm not going to stitch the design as such. I'm just going to stitch the lines and go back over previous rows of stitching that I've already done. Then with this template set, you also get the circles, which this is a very popular pattern. So we draw the design on, as I've showed you before, but we're not going to quilt the pattern as such. We're not going to quilt the circles. That can be too hard. So what I do is I just find a starting point and I stitch, and I just keep stitching the wave till I quilt all of the lines. I just find a continuous line to stitch. If I get stumped, if I get back to somewhere where I've already stitched, I just slow down and go back over the previous row, and that's why I suggest using the fine threads. And I love the way it builds up a layer of thread and makes the design really pop out. So that's just a little bit, but make sure you get a really good quality marking pencil. The Hobbs Heirloom Fusible Batting, this one here, is the one that I strongly recommend, because we're not, as we draw the design on, we're not getting any stretching, we're getting no movement, we don't have to use a walking foot, we don't have to pin any of the layers together. It just makes everything sit together absolutely beautifully. So I'm going to go to the machine now, and we're going to set up and we're going to start quilting that design so that you can learn what you need to do on your sewing machine to be able to quilt beautifully. So I'll just move some other things over here that I'm going to need. Okay, so I do have that open toe foot on the machine, which I want everybody to be able to see this foot. So we're just going to put another camera over so we can see this foot. So this would be the foot that you would use for applique. Where will I put that so that the camera can pick up on it? Let me put this down. Can we pick up on that? So there we go. So I'm using a Bernina because I love my Bernina, but you can use whatever machine you like. If you use a Bernina and want to know what foot this is, it's the 20C foot, the open toe foot that you would use for applique, edge stitching, all of those sorts of things. So once again, I said the feed dogs are up. And even though I said that in my class here in store this morning, I mentioned that quite a few times that I stitch with the feed dogs up. I had it asked of me after I started stitching. They were saying to me, "You have got your feed dogs down, don't you?" No, they're up. I have the machine stitch length set to 3. That's the stitch length that I like to quilt with. But to make this easy for me, to make this move through the machine beautifully, I recommend having a sew slip mat on the machine. Okay, this is a sew slip mat and it's number 2. There is a number 1 sew slip mat. Now the number 1 sew slip mat comes with a little hole in it for when you're free motion quilting. This one here, the number 2, if you've never used one of these, take the paper off the back. It's got this paper on the back. You'll notice there's a cutout in the mat. This side I've got facing up at the moment, that is a sticky side. It's tacky. That's going to go to the bed of the machine. So take the paper off. Put this cutout around the feed dogs. Make sure you wipe the bed of the machine down first before you put the mat on, because you don't, if you've got fluff and lint and a bit of mess on your machine from previous sewing, you don't want it to stick to the sticky side. So put it on there, pat it down so that it grabs to the machine, and that's now going to make your fabric slide beautifully through there. I have had it said to me many, many times by a lot of people that have the number 1 mat that they've tried to cut their little circle out to be a big rectangle, and when they've done that, their mat has split and their threads keep getting caught in it. So that tells me that this cutout has been sealed, so it won't split, but if you attack it with the scissors, it will split. These will attract fluff and lint. So over time, you may need to take it off and wash it in hot soapy water. So I leave this on my machine permanently. I don't take it off the machine unless it needs a good bath in hot soapy water. Because when I'm piecing my blocks together, when I'm making my quilts, when I'm putting a binding on a quilt, it allows the fabric to move through the machine with ease. It's really, really easy to do. Okay, so I'm going to start sewing these curves. I'm going to sew down these curves. You're going to notice what's going to happen to my fabric when I start sewing, and you're going to see why I need to make an adjustment. So feed dogs up, stitch length set, 2, 3. Always have your needle in the down position because you want to be right on the spot when you sew. I hope you can see this clear enough. So as I start coming around here, you're going to notice the fabric's all starting to bunch up. Can you see that? It's not really picking up nicely there. But I've got all this fabric is bunching up terribly underneath there. So what I'm going to do, and we'll just bring the camera around really close to the front of the machine so we can see the setting that I'm going to change. So can you see how that's all bunched up now? I've got better camera there now. But now we're going to take the camera up to the screen on the machine. So what this is doing is when I try to sew around this curve, I've got too much foot pressure on the fabric, too much downward pressure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust pressure off the sewing foot. Now, you'll need to look in your manual because all of our machines are different. When you look in your manual at this adjustment, you're looking at pressure foot adjustment or pressure foot tension, okay? Because you just don't want that pressure coming down onto the fabric because you'll get too many curves. So now, what we're going to do is we're going to change that setting. My machine, my default on my machine for normal sewing, it's set up at 70. I'm going to reduce my pressure from 70 to 11. Now, on your machine or on different machines, your setting will be totally different. Some machines' full setting might be at, say, 20. You'd probably reduce it down to about maybe 10. You've just got to figure out what your settings need to be. You need to learn what your machine can do. Some machines, full settings, full pressure could be 9. I'd suggest you bring it down to about 4 to do your curves. If you want to do tighter curves, take it down even further. So hopefully you're understanding this. As I said, my full pressure on this machine is 70. I'm now going to take it down to 11. So I'm going to touch the button. Okay. Can you see that Oh, I'm upside down. Okay. Oh, we do have a question, right?
They said if your sewing machine does not change foot pressure, I sew on an antique Singer machine model 201.
Okay, I'll explain that in a moment, just because every machine doesn't do this. And as I said to the huge crowd that were here this morning, go buy a new machine if you want a quilt like this. But I'll explain something in a minute about the older machines where it may not, it may be helpful. So here I'm going to touch the third icon down, which is my pressure foot pressure button. Okay, touch that. We get this little slidey button, and I'm now bringing it down to 11. Oops, I went too far. Oops, what's it doing? 16. Okay, so now I have that set at 11. I lock it in. So now that's going to allow me to come around all of these curve shapes beautifully. So you may have taken yours from 20 down to 10 or to 8. You've just got to figure out what is the right setting for you. Now we can stitch on that line. Now, the camera's not picking it up, but I don't have my hands up here like I would normally for free motion quilting. That's going to apply too much pressure to the fabric. So I'm going to say to people, hold your fabric at the front, like I'm holding the fabric at the front here. So we just want to be able to swing this fabric in and around under the needle. So I say use angel fingers, very light fingers on the front of your fabric. You'll find a way to hold your fabric that will suit you. And you're just going to slide this around. The mat underneath is allowing your fabric just to slide. And now come around a corner. We're going to come right round the corner. So I've just done a complete circle. I haven't had to lift the pressure foot. I'm now going to come up to a point, and I'm going to stop right at the point. I'm going to pivot around, and I'm going to keep sewing. So normally I just work up and down doing the figure eights, but I just want to show you by rotating this fabric under the needle how easy it is just to sit back really relaxed and just quilt on the line. We can't get lost. We just keep stitching until we fill in all of the lines. And that's as simple as what quilting is. It just makes it very, very easy to be able to quilt any shape that you want to shape. And those that are attending my hands-on class tomorrow, they're going to be quilting this sort of design out, and they're going to be quilting feathers. And I think it'll shock everybody how easy things are to quilt once you know what your sewing machine will do for you. I find when you quilt a grid, you know, when you quilt that straight lines and you come back across the other way when you're quilting, most people use a walking foot. But I find that even with a walking foot, when you stitch one way and come back the other direction, you get the bunching up at the previous row of stitching. So if we learn to use our pressure foot adjustment, we won't get that bulking up at those previous rows. I never have to use a walking foot. I just adjust the pressure off the sewing foot. This setting is on our machines to be able to sew through thickness. You know, when we were making a lot of garments and we're sewing through a lot of thick wool fabrics and everything, our machines allowed us to adjust the pressure off the foot so that the machine would sew through all of that bulky thickness. So just to explain a little bit about some of our other machines. Some machines have a knob at the top where you can adjust the pressure. Some machines have a wheel up here where you can adjust the pressure. My old Bernina had a dial here that I had to use to adjust the pressure. Some of our really, really old machines had a button like we have up the top here, and you would press that and a spring would pop up. that would release pressure off the sewing foot. Some other machines, they have a little lever, a little knob on them that has a plus minus button. You get a screwdriver and you can adjust the pressure by adjusting it there. And if you can do that, you just got to find where on your machine where it is. If you have a manual, I suggest you look in your manual and look at pressure foot adjustment. Now, if your machine may even call it pressure foot tension. So it's nothing to do with your thread tensions. It's all to do with the amount of pressure that you put on your fabric with your foot. We all know when we start to sew, our pressure foot drops down. That holds our fabric between the feed dogs and the foot to allow the fabric to move through the machine. And I find with quilting, if I have too much pressure on, I can't go around the curves. So the nice thing about the reason I chose to use the Bernina that I use, if I want to do something really intricate now, I can now take my pressure off a lot further. I'm going to now take my pressure to -11. I'm going to go into the negative. So I'll press the button again. Now I'm going to slide the button down till I come to 11. Oops. And I lock it in. So now that's going to allow me to do sideways stitching. I'm just going to adjust the camera. It's going to allow me to sideways stitch. My stitches are staying even. I've taken enough pressure off the fabric to allow me to slide the fabric under the needle. Now, a lot of machines, different brands, they don't allow you to go into the negative. But if you can take enough pressure off just to be able to do gentle curves and feathers and everything, you're going to be a beautiful quilter. There's nothing hard about it. So the lady that asked the question that her machine, she can't adjust the pressure, you can still quilt, but you'll have to lift your pressure foot when you go around the tight curves. So you'll have to just do a little adjustment. You can still do it, but by releasing the pressure off, it does make it a lot easier. And you're not hunched over the machine. You're not, really putting a lot of pressure on it. The lighter your fingers are on here, the easier it is going to be to quilt. So is there any other questions coming through on that? No? But there's so many different machines out there now, even if you've got a big machine, you don't want to adjust your pressure and that for your quilting. There is so many great machines out there now that have this adjustment on them to have it as a second machine. And it really does make you enjoy the quilting journey, because I just think I was struggling quilting a big quilt through my domestic machine. I can free motion quilt, but I just didn't like the big bulk of the quilt coming through here. I choose to be a person that doesn't have a long arm. I like to quilt my own quilts. So I found once I developed my quilt as you go technique, and then I found what my machine would do by adjusting the pressure, I became a really confident quilter so very quickly, just knowing what my machine would do. So give it a try. I think you'll enjoy it. So I'm just going to put the machine aside, and I'm going to get some other things set up for you to show you how I join my quilts together, quilt as you go. So hope you enjoyed that little session. But if there's any questions, don't hesitate to put them up there, because we want to teach you as much as we can. That's why this quilt behind me is that free online lesson. I'm just showing you a very quick demo here today. But with that lesson, you'll need to go to our website, which is pqw.com.au, look for that QISS logo and click on that, and then that'll take you through what you need to do, and you'll get to the stage where it will say download your notes. We've written a lot of extensive instructions for you that you can download, build up your own little portfolio of all the different instructions that you need. what you can do to be able to join your quilts together in our Quilt As You Go. It is called the Exquisite Quilt. That's what we've named it. You can do it out of any colour. And I'm sure here at the Aurora Sewing Center, they will do a bundle up for you. They'll put a package together for all the fabric and the batting and everything you need to make that quilt. But join me on that journey. But give me 5 seconds and I'm going to just put the machine away. I'm going to get some other things out for you and I'm going to show you how to join your quilts together. Quilt As You Go. Ready? Yep. Can I put this table up a bit higher? All that affect the cameras. I can sit, I'll sit down and do it. It's okay. Yep. Okay, right, we're back now. We've got it all set up. Sorry for that little bit of an interval there. But when we do our Quilt As You Go, there's many ways you can do it. I'm just going to show you my between the block technique, and it would be the technique that we use in the blue and white quilt behind us. And it's really easy. When we've got a quilt pattern, whatever you're going to be making, just look at the pattern and work out how you're going to divide that up. So I'm just going to show you this piece here that I'm working on. This is a section to a quilt. Now I've got the 3 layers together. This is my backing. This is my top layer. I've quilted the grid on this, and this is where I adjusted the pressure off slightly so I didn't get the bunching up. It all just sat there beautifully for me. I've got all my blocks made. Each of the blocks are made. Here's another block that's ready. So make all your blocks. Now, when I've done these blocks, I wanted to put these woven hearts over the top. But the first thing I did was iron my 3 layers together, my backing, my batting, and my top layer. I then marked the clamshells on from the dot to dot pack. Once I've done that, I then did my applique over the top of the quilting. I find it so much easier to do the quilting on the block first before I do any of the applique. It just makes it so, so much easier. Then I've got all of my borders quilted. Backings on these, all the borders are quilted, so all I have to do now is join the quilt together. So the hard part's done first. I don't know why we've always been told to quilt last. Why can't we quilt first and get the hard part done out of the road, then we start joining together. Now, the tools that I use, or the notions I use to do my quilts Quilt As You Go, I'm going to introduce you to my Quilt As You Go book to start with. This is my, turn it around to the camera. This is a book that I wrote some years ago when I started developing my Quilt As You Go technique. This is going to take you through all the different ways that you can put quilts together. We've only got time to show you one today. So we're going to show you different parts of it. Sorry, we just get this camera. I have too many moving parts for the cameras to keep up with. But we're going to show you lots of different things. Now you'll notice in my book that I've left spare pages for you to write your own individual notes, because I'm going to give you lots of instructions, lots of measurements. I'm going to tell you different adjustments on your sewing machine, and I would like you to write them in your little book. So this becomes your own personal handbook for Quilt As You Go. I'm going to mention a lot of different measurements to you, which you probably won't remember them all now, but there is the measurement chart in the front of the book. So you'll be able to refer back to that at any stage. So that is my, okay, we've got a question coming in.
Ted said, are the borders oversized to quilt and then trimmed to size?
Yes. The question was, do I cut my borders a little bit larger before I quilt them? Yes, I do. I cut them about ½ an inch bigger all the way around, and once I've done the quilting, I then trim the back like I do with my blocks, like a normal quilt. But I find that the Hobbs Heirloom double-sided fusible batting, it doesn't pull in like our normal battings do. It doesn't pull in as much, and it certainly doesn't stretch out of shape. Like with this border here, when I've quilted it, I had no stretch whatsoever. So when I trim this back and join it to the quilt, it's going to sit perfectly flat, and my quilts will just lay beautifully over the bed. So very good question. But if you're going to do this free online lesson with me on the Exquisite Quilt, we go through that step by step by step. We show you every little detail that you would ever need to know. So we're going to use the book. When I make my sashings, I use the Sasha collection. Now, I designed these quite some years ago, because when I was making one of my Quilt As You Go quilts, I had to iron yards and yards and yards of ½ inch strips. I had to fold the edges in and do so many yards of that. I was going to say meters, because in Australia we use the meters. But I was burning my fingers. I practically had blisters on my fingers. So my husband and I designed this Sasha collection to be able to fold fabric in on both sides to give us a perfect finish. So I'm going to show you how to use those and how important they are in the process of putting your quilts together, Quilt As You Go. Then when we get up to joining our blocks together, I'm going to introduce you to our piece sashing templates. Now, when I explain the sashings to you, you'll understand why these templates are so important, and I'll explain all of that to you as we go through the next little bit. I use the Roxanne Glue Basted all the time. This is a beautiful, beautiful product. I love this. I use the Clover fork pins. I'll explain to you why I use these. And one of the most important things I use is the Mono Poly Invisible Thread. Now, this is a brilliant thread. It's invisible. It scares a lot of people, but please don't be scared of it. In the past, we've used invisible threads, but most of them have been nylon. Now, nylon will stretch as you wind it on the bobbin. Nylon will melt if you put a hot iron near it. Nylon thread can throw the tensions out on your machine. This one here is not nylon. So when you take this out of the packet, down the bottom of the packet under the thread, there is a little bit of a gauze, a net. I don't know if the camera can pick this up, but this is a gauze netting. So it's in the packet, it's down underneath here. Please don't lose that. Once you've undone the thread for the first time, put this gauze, I call it a gauze jacket, put that over the spool and leave it on there permanently. That will stop the thread coming off the spool too fast and getting caught up. Now, to put this on your bobbin, please wind your bobbin at a slower speed, at half speed. Slow your machine bobbin winding down, because if you wind this on a fast speed, what's going to happen is the threads will get caught in underneath each other. It will throw your tensions out. And with this thread, please only half fill the bobbin. I find if we fill our bobbin up with this thread, it is so very fine. Filling your bobbin completely with this thread, it's overfilling the bobbin. It will throw your tensions out and it won't be nice. And I found that when I first started using it, I wound my bobbin up completely full because I thought I didn't want to stop and fill the bobbin again. But when I went to take the bobbin off the bobbin winder, I couldn't get it off. I'd put too much thread on the bobbin and it shrunk that little hole in the bobbin. I had to stand for half an hour and pull thread off the bobbin to allow me to get that bobbin off the bobbin winder. And we can put too much thread on a bobbin. If I filled the bobbin with this thread completely, it will be equivalent to 2 full bobbins of a regular thread. So please only half fill your bobbin at a slow speed, and this will never melt, won't jam up in your machine. It's just a beautiful, beautiful thread to use. So that's the thread I use to do most of my stitching. I use it in the bobbin a lot when I do my quilts, Quilt As You Go, because I use multicolored fabrics on the back. I don't want to see the joining on the back. So I'm going to show you the back of this quilt. I'll just lay it out. It's just a little quilt, just as an example. So when I've made this quilt, I've put a double sashing on here. I didn't want to use a cream thread. I didn't want to use a black thread because it would show up on the opposite colors. So when I made this quilt, when I quilted it, when I put the sashing on it, I used that monopoly clear thread in the bobbin of my machine and in the top. That way I didn't have to thread match all the way through. The one thread was what I used to do all the quilting and put all of the appliques down and put my sashings on. So if I'm going to join my blocks together, I'm going to use a regular thread. I want to use a regular thread to do that. I just use the thread for the top stitching and that. Now, when we turn the quilt over to the back, this is what the back of the quilt's going to look like. It will look like a normal quilt back, but it's not. Each block has its own individual backing on it, and using that thread and the double-sided fusible batting, you don't get the bulk, you don't get the movement, you don't get the stretching. Everything just sits there beautifully, and you've got no bulk at the seams. So that's why I recommend that batting and the thread. Took me 10 years to find the right products to make this work so efficiently for me. Now, we're going to start joining blocks together. I've got 2 patchwork blocks here. There's 2 normal piece blocks. This is the method I'm using here to demonstrate to you is the method I use to join this quilt together behind me. I call it between the block technique. In my book, you're going to find a section on between the block, and you're going to find a section on the back to back, but we're going to just cover the between the block technique now. So once you've got your blocks made, you've got your 3 layers together, make your block, iron your 3 layers together, and then do the quilting. Once you've done the quilting, you then decide how wide do you want your sashing to join these blocks together. So I'm going to do a 2-inch wide sashing. So I'm going to cut a piece of my backing fabric. This is my backing fabric. I cut a piece of that 2.5 inches wide. Then I go to my machine and I use a 1/4 inch seam and I join the blocks together with that piece of backing fabric. So this piece that's coming down through here, when the camera picks up, this strip through here is what we call a spacer strip. So there's my 1/4 inch seam. You can see how I've seamed the 1/4 inch seam to the block, joining that backing strip, join it on this other side, press your seams to the center. Now we're going to make a 2-inch sashing to come over and cover that. So what we do when we make a sashing, we're going to use, I'm going to demonstrate a 1-inch sashing here. So I'm going to use the 1-inch sasher tool from the set. Now, using these tools, they're all got the finish measurement written at the top of the tool. You'll cut your fabric double that measurement. So I'm going to make a 1-inch sashing using the pink sasher tool. I cut the fabric 2 inches wide. I'll use this little piece here. We're going to fold the ends in and in till they meet. Now, if each turn back is not exactly even on both sides, that does not matter. Nobody will see the back. Just press that first little bit. And then we're going to put this into the tool. Come up from the bottom, go back over that center bar and back down the bottom. So always go over that center bar. Now what we need to do next is we need to anchor this end down here. And I do that with a pin, but I don't just use a normal pin. I find if I pin this with 2 single pins, because I pin them in separately, I get different tensions on both sides and I can get stretching on one side of the fabric more than the other. So I'm going to introduce you to, if you don't already know about them, is the double fork pin. This is a bit hard to see. If I had a bit of dark fabric, it might show up better. Okay, a double pin. So these pins are for getting your points perfect when you're piecing your blocks together. If you don't know about them, they are the best pins ever for when you're matching your points, because I know when I butt my seams together and I put 2 connecting points together and I put a pin up the center seam or one either side of that seam, it can move the seams apart. But if I use the double pin, it goes either side of the stitching line and locks the seam in place perfectly. So I find the double pin here works brilliantly to put equal tension on both sides of that fabric. So it's catching each side of the fabric as I pin it in, push it in, and then all we're going to do is put the side of the iron against the tool and push the tool with the iron. I do find that some people use the front of the iron in that curve, and what happens there is it can twist and it will make your strip go very crooked. We've designed it with these peaks either side, so the side of the iron's going to touch it. I'll just turn this a little bit for you so that you can see that. And all we do is push with the iron. Now, if this was a big long strip that I was ironing, I'd iron about 15 inches. I'd stop and I would move the pin up to where I'm at, because you don't want the fabric to twist. But that's all you do and you get that perfect fold. It just folds the fabric in together perfectly. So once you've made that up, pull this out. Once you've made that up, you get that beautiful straight strip. So I'm just going to demonstrate, show you some of the different sashings that I've made. Here I've made this sashing, and I've used 3 different color fabrics. So this was a 2-inch sashing. The green from width to width is 2 inches finished. The orange is 1 inch and the yellow is 1/2 inch. So once I make those, I put them together and I sew them together with that clear thread on the top and the bobbin before I go on and attach it to the quilt. So I could put this on here, line up all of my points, and there we have a triple sashing going on to the quilt. So you just line up the points. But when I'm putting these sashings down, I find if I pin them, I get too much distortion. So I use the Roxanne glue basted. I use this applicator, but this is the one that they have there in store. Same glue, just different applicators. I just put little dots of glue underneath each side, iron it with a hot iron, and then I go and stitch right on the edge so that I get that really neat stitching coming right on the edge, and I'm matching my points perfectly. So now, a little tip, okay? This is going to be just a plain sashing. This was cut 4 inches wide. I've put it through the 2-inch sasher tool. But I need to put some batting in to make it the same thickness as my blocks. So when I've made this, I've made the 2-inch sashing, okay, put it through the 2-inch tool. Then when I cut my batting strip, I need to cut my batting strip just a little bit narrower than the 2 inches. If I cut the batting strip the same width as the 2-inch here, when I lay the batting in, if it was the same width, when I fold this back over, I'm going to distort that nice crease line. So for a 2-inch sashing, you're going to cut your batting 1 7/8. And all these measurements are in my book. We're going to lay this in here. Now, a lot of people say to me, why don't we put the batting in this? You could put the batting in there, a little bit more fiddlier. You could put that in there, but when you put the sashing over the top and stitch it on, it dips out. It doesn't sit up and sit nice and flat. So that's why I recommend that we put the batting inside your sashing. So lay it down, lay this back over, and using the fusible batting, we can press that and it sits in there beautifully. It's not going to stretch, it's not going to pull out of shape, it's just going to sit there. Come through with your glue and just put little dots of glue down this side. You don't need a lot of this glue. We're going to line up the edge of the sashing right on the stitching line, because that's the 1/4 inch line that we've got. Sorry, it looks like it's going over a bit, but it's not. It's just lining up there exactly. Line it up. Once you get it all lined up, put the hot iron on that to set the glue. That will set the glue for you perfectly. So I can match those points perfectly. You could do a little bit of fudging if you have to, but just line it all up. Press it and then do the other side. Now that glue will hold that there perfectly in place while you come ahead and you just stitch right on that edge. And once you've got this other side done, you'll glue this side down before you start stitching, obviously. Once you've got it stitched on, if you choose to come back and put a nice quilting design in here, you can. A lot of people say to me, why don't I quilt this before I put it onto the between the blocks? I find if I quilted this sashing first, it's not going to be attached through to that backing strip. It's going to flop around a bit. So that's why I like to put that on there first, then I like to quilt it, then I'll join the next block on, and so on and so on. So that's just a little few tips on joining your blocks together, but that's how we've joined the quilt together behind us. But let me show you a lot more. because it gets really exciting now. I'm going to explain to you about the purple templates that I showed you before, because this is where it really saves you doing all the maths. You don't have to worry about that. They're all the maths is built into the template. They're not like any other template. They're not like just half square triangle templates or anything like that. But I'm going to do some triangles. You can see triangles on the quilt behind me. Where's my hand going? Over this side, I'll never get it right. Over here, you're going to see some triangles. So we're going to make some of those. They're running down over my shoulder here. What we do, if the camera can come in close to this template here is our triangle template. Okay. These ones here will make your flying geese. These ones here make your stars. So you can make all different combinations of sashings using this set of templates. So the 2-inch up here is your finished measurement. So once you cut out your fabrics and make up your strips, you would then use the 2-inch sasher tool and put your fabric through that, and you'll get perfect sashings. So I'll show you step by step how this is done. So with the templates, one thing that we're very aware of with the templates, it can be a bit tricky to cut around these because templates can slip. But Simon, in his wisdom, has come up with non-slip grips that are actually built into the template. They're engraved deep into the template so they don't wear off. So what we do is put the template down, and I like to use the little 18mm rotary cutter, but I don't think I've got mine here with me. But we just cut around the template, and then we join our pieces together. So when we go to make the stars, we cut around the template. So these are our shapes to make up our triangles. We'll do the triangles first. So we've got our 2 different colors, like so. Here we've got another 2. And all we're going to do is put these right sides together. Oops, I've got this the wrong way around. This is a better way. Right sides together and stitch your 1/4-inch seam. And we're creating rectangles. So from this rectangles, we're going to make our triangles. We press the seams and we join them together to be one long strip. There's our strips that we've just joined. Now all we're going to do is fold the edges back to the points. Fold back to the points. Fold back, press. Now you could go all the way through and press that yourself, but it's very tedious. So once I get the first couple folded back to the points, I then will put that through the 2-inch sasher tool. If I have one here with me. No, I don't. So we'll just get a 2-inch tool. I'm going to take one out of the packet. Just get one of these. So I'm going to put it into the 2-inch tool. So you can see now that I've got this folded back to the first 2 points. It folds back perfectly. Put it into the tool. Pin it with the double pin and push with the iron. It's a very simple process. So we wanted to calculate all the turnbacks into the template so that you didn't have to do the maths, because it's very difficult to calculate what the turnback needs to be. So all we're going to do now is push with the iron right the way down the strip, and you get your perfect points. So you can see there how we've got those points perfect. And then we're going to join the blocks together with our spacer strip. We've got our spacer strip in there. We've cut that 2.5 inches wide. That is the backing fabric. That's the wrong side of the backing fabric. The right side is facing out to the back of the quilt. Put that on. We make those triangles up. We add the batting to it, which is cut 1 7/8. You're going to iron that in there, press it in. Then you're going to come and put your glue down each side, and you'll put your triangles, we'll put them up this way, put your triangles in place. So the glue will hold it there perfectly. Have that clear thread in the top and the bobbin. Then you're not thread matching as you stitch down here. And you sew really, really close to the edge. You could come back and ditch stitch this if you wanted to, because all you're doing is working with small units. It makes it so very, very simple to do any style of sashing you want. I don't know if the camera can pick up on this next one. Sorry. I'm going to show the stars on this quilt that I've got on the table, because we want to show you how you can convert a regular quilt pattern into something pretty special. So when I made this quilt that's in front of me here, sorry, I'll take this off. We've got all the different stars in the sashings. So these blocks were just using up my stash of fabrics, trying to get rid of some of them. I just cut the backing and the batting out, and I sewed and flipped onto the squares. Then I wanted to make something pretty special in the sashing, so I've made the stars. So I'm going to show you how I make the stars, but I'm going to make 2-inch stars here for you and join them to these blocks that I have right here in front of me. So to make the stars from those templates, I'm using the rectangle and the square. And I'm going to cut around the rectangle, around the square, sorry. And on the square template, you're going to have a little split in the template. Just this one here. So we cut around this template. There is a little split in the template. I don't know if the camera's picking up on that, but there is a little split in the template. You mark with your fabric marking pencil that diagonal line, and you're going to sew across that diagonal line, and you're going to fold this back to create your points. Then you're going to trim off the backing fabric so you've got no bulk there. You then will put this through the 2-inch sasher tool. You'll then join your pieces together with your spacer strip. You'll put the batting inside your sashing, the batting's inside. You'll glue that in place and then stitch up the edge. You could then come back and quilt it. You could continue your quilting design across. If you've got the same quilting pattern on both blocks, you could certainly continue that quilting line straight across. Then we're going to join the next 2 rows together and put this on here. Once you've got those attached, you then join your spacer strip across here, which is the same measurement as what you've put here, 2.5 inches. You're going to build up this unit. You're going to put that through the 2-inch sasher tool, and there you have your perfect stars. So that's how I've made the quilt on the table, the colourful quilt on it. But I used the 3-inch set of templates and the 3-inch sasher tool to give me the 3-inch sashing that I needed. But if you're going to do the quilt behind me, the exquisite quilt, we're going to use the 2-inch set of the purple templates to make all of that collection of different sashings. And once you've done that sampler quilt, it'll teach you how you can put any quilt together in the Quilt as you go technique. We're going to show you how to do all of these sorts of sashings. We're going to do applique sashings. We're going to do a lot with bias and adding interest to it. We're going to do this sort of sashing. So we want to give you a whole variety of different techniques that you can learn to be able to apply to anything that you're making in the future. And it really is a very simple process. Make 1 or 2 of these and you've got the technique down pat, and you can convert any quilt to Quilt as you go. So that's just a little bit, but I've got a little few more things to show you. I want to show you how to do bias, because I love adding bias as a trim to a lot of my different things that I make. Stems on flowers, like putting around, as you've seen on these blocks that I've made here. All of these fabrics here are woven. They're all woven strips. I've made up the strips using the sasha tools. Okay, they're all woven, all unders and overs. I'll just grab this one here. See all of that? It's all woven. But I finished the edges off with bias. And you can do so many beautiful things with bias. Here we've done a double bias. I cut the stripe was cut 1 inch wide. It went through the 1/2 inch sasha tool to make a 1/2 inch bias, and then the black on top is a 1/4 inch bias. Now, a lot of people get into trouble with bias. A lot of people can't get bias to go around the tight curves and sit in really nicely around these edges here. In that exquisite quilt program, if you're going to do that, I show you how to cut your fabric on the true bias to get a beautiful, beautiful finish. But let me make some bias for you, because it really is fun to make. So I've cut this fabric that I'm going to use 1/2 inch wide on the bias. Now it's a little bit wrinkled, so I just need to iron it out. And I'll get the 1/4 inch tool. So I'm going to use the 1/4 inch tool. You can see it's got the 1/4 inch written on the top. I've cut the fabric 1/2 inch wide. But just a little tip for you, and I've run into this problem myself. I was making bias one day. I'd cut it 1/2 inch wide, double the measurement of the tool, but as I was pushing the tool with the iron, my fabric was not folding properly. It was popping out at the edges. And I thought, why is that happening? So I went back and I cut another strip, and before I put it into the tool, I decided I would put the hot iron on it. And once I put the hot iron on that strip had shrunk a 1/16 of an inch. And I tried it on all different sorts of fabrics, and I found the more open weave my fabric was, the more the fabric shrunk when I put the hot iron on it. So always do a tester. Cut your strip, iron it. If it shrinks, cut your strip just that little bit wider so that your edges will turn back. So I'm going to turn these edges back. It's a little bit fiddly here to do this, but just turn it back. If it's not meeting exactly perfectly here, that would be a little bit of waste when you make your bias. Now, when I use all of the other size sashes, we fold our fabric so the folded edge is facing up to me, facing up. But when we do the little tiny strips, I find if I have the folded edge facing up, it doesn't fold in properly because it's such a tiny, tiny little fold. So when I put it into the tool, I'm going to have the folded edge facing down to the ironing surface. Come up from the bottom, back over that center bar, and back down. Now pin with the double pin. Okay, so that you're going to get equal tension on both sides of that bias strip. Now, if you've never seen the double pins, this is how they look. This is how they come to you. They're in a little box. They're worth their weight in gold. They are so brilliant for so many different things. I love these pins. So now we'll just put this in and hope the camera picks this up. So we'll just start it off. Hold your fabric so it stays nice and straight. Put the iron against the tool and all you do is push. Oops, get started here. All you do is push with the iron. I'm not pushing down. I'm not putting any pressure down. It's just a glide. Just glide it along. And just keep moving it along. Run the iron back across it a couple of times to get plenty of heat into that strip so you keep that lovely fold. And when you turn that over, you will see that you've got a perfect fold. It just folds it in both sides beautifully for you. So that's how I make my bias. It's really, really easy to do. And you can add bias around any edge of anything. So if I was going to put my bias, say, around this design, we're going to use the glue, run the glue wherever you want that bias to go. Now, if I happen to put my iron on that glue, it's not going to stick to the iron. It doesn't stick to the iron. Where's the iron there? We get no glue residue on our iron whatsoever. And remember, it's water-based glue. It washes out when you wash your quilt. So to put this bias down, all we're going to do is iron it in place. Just come around all of those tight curves. Once you've made a couple of pieces of bias and start seeing what you can do with it, you can have so much fun with bias. And once it's cut on the right grain, which we'll show you in that online course, you'll be able to go around those tightest curves and get a perfect finish. If you make a mistake with that glue, you can always take it off and start again. So that's just a little tip on making bias. But now a couple of other things that the Sewcial tools do for you. They're brilliant in ironing your binding up for a quilt. So I'm going to cut my binding strips 1.5 inches wide, and I use the 1 1/4 inch tool. This one here, the 1 1/4. If I cut my binding 2 1/4, I would put it through the 1 1/8. If I do a binding that has a flange around the edge of it or a little tiny strip around the edge, I use this bottom one, which is the magic binding tool. So let me show you a few of those. So for a regular binding, as I said, this strip is cut 2.5 inches wide. We fold the ends in. We press the first couple of inches. We're going to put that into the 1 1/4 inch tool, which is somewhere under here. I get in such a mess when I'm sewing, but it's always a good mess. So we're going to pin this into the ironing surface. Now we're not going to hold both edges of the fabric together. Okay, don't hold both edges, just hold the top edge. Put a little bit of tension on there. Put the side of the iron against your Sewcial tool and you just move it through. So I usually pin into the end of my big ironing board so I can just keep scooting along, but it folds your fabric over perfectly. So you may need to move the pin about every 20 inches or so when you're doing a binding, so you keep good tension on the fabric and you just keep moving it through. So that's a regular binding. Now I'm going to use the magic binding tool. Now these two tools are slightly different in the measurement of this opening here, because when we do a binding with a little flange, we've added that little bit of extra fabric. So we need to use the magic binding tool because we're going to cut our fabric for the flange we cut that 1 3/4 inches wide. The piece for our binding is cut 1 1/2 inches wide. We seam that with a 1/4 inch seam. Then we fold the edges over till they meet, exactly meeting on this raw edge. Now I could go through and press this all by myself, but if I've got a big binding to do for a queen size quilt, I'd be walking along here with my fingers. I'd be trying to get this all even. I'd be trying to keep the edges even. But if you use the magic binding tool, it just works brilliantly for you. Up and back down. Then we're going to pin with that double pin. So one part of the pin's going to go into the little flange, the other part's going into the binding strip. Puts equal tension on both sides. Hold the edge of the binding strip, not the flange strip, the binding strip. Let's get this all sorted. Just move this up a little bit. Put the iron against the tool and all you do is press. You just keep working down and you'll get that perfectly even strip where you're not having to be there and push it out yourself and burn your fingers as you go along. Just keep moving the pin down, keep ironing it till you get all the strip done. Then we sew it onto the back of the quilt, the wrong side of the quilt. Turn it to the front. Use your glue and put little dots of glue along the stitching line. Fold the binding over and I set that glue with the iron. Now when I do the corners, I stitch around my binding the way I would normally do a binding, but to get this to fold over even, I put the glue out on the diagonal. Then I fold it back over on itself till I get that perfect miter in that corner. So you want this flange to run around perfectly even with itself. Just see that I've got that. Set the glue, continue gluing all the way around, and then go to your machine and stitch right in that where the two pieces of fabric are joined together in that ditch. And put your binding down by a machine and you'll get a perfect finish. It's a very simple binding to do and it adds such a lovely interest to your quilt. So that's all I'm going to show you, but I'm going to invite Simon back on camera now because I want him to show you his quilt. So, because I think it's pretty amazing. So we're going to explain a little bit to you about that. I'll just pack up some of my equipment. Is there any more questions? Not yet?
Well, actually, she said, so you do not need to make the borders 2 inches all around. This was from like 30.
Yeah. When you're doing your borders, no, you don't have. If you're using other battings are going to pull in a lot more than what the fusible does. So you may have to make them quite a lot larger. But I find with the fusible batting, by making them a 1/2 inch bigger all the way around, that's all I need. So thank you, Peg, for that question. Sorry we didn't answer that earlier. But if you have any questions, please put them up there for us because we love to answer them and help you along your way into the journey. We want to give you the big quiz. We want to help you to be able to develop any of your quilts into quilt as you go. And as you're going to see Simon's quilt here now, you're going to realize that, oh my gosh, you can turn a regular quilt. Now, Simon hasn't used a pattern. It's come out of his head. And all he's used is triangles and squares. Finished squares 3 inches, finished triangles 3 inches.
Yep.
Yep, good. So let me move some of this out of the way, because we need space to lay this quilt out. So the quilt we're going to show you is going to end up being a queen size quilt made by a guy, which is okay. It's really good to have guys
Very
quilting.
okay.
It's very okay. Do you want to pop that on the floor so that we don't mess it up? So as Simon said before, he's made a couple of little quilts but they weren't really triangles and squares and everything. They were bigger pieces, weren't they?
No, the first one I made was the disappearing 9 patch.
Yep, okay.
And I followed one of your methods, the back to back.
Yes,
And it became the double disappearing 9 patch.
yep, which is really a great quilt.
Then I learned about your points.
Yeah.
And the space between the blocks
Yep.
technique.
Yep,
So that's what I'm doing on my quilt.
right. Well, so this is going to be a king size quilt. Am I right in saying that?
King size, yeah.
So normal piecing of the blocks, like you'd piece any block together. So just all triangles and squares. So you can see how he's pieced the back.
It's a bit too closely zoomed in to have a look at the points. But
Well, I think since you've done this, we've introduced you to the fork pins, haven't we?
we have, yeah. So I'm actually getting a lot better now.
Yep. So this is one of the first blocks. But now your next step is,
Well, we got the backing, the batting, and my
Good.
piece blocks.
okay, so you would press those together now.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's the beauty of the batting. You can reposition it to make sure all of your lines are running nice and straight.
And you've left an awful lot of batting and backing around there. You really don't need to leave that much. You only need 1/2 inch because this batting doesn't pull in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, lucky I can use those strips on other
Yeah.
sashings.
Sure, you sure can. You sure can. So that's step 1.
Step 1.
Right. Step 2.
Step 2 is just as you described, is drawing on the design. It might come up in the camera, but I've used the 3-inch curve from the dot to dot grid.
Let me find that while you keep talking.
Because these are 3-inch squares and 3-inch half square triangles. The 3-inch curve, which is this one,
Not really showing up.
I'll go to the overhead. There we go. So with the dot to dots, I've got a little 1/4 inch edge on the side there. And that's for your little 1/4 edge on your
So
piece.
lining up here. Yep.
Yeah. And then when I position that, and I can draw that curve, that wave
Yep. Perfect.
up and over. And you can see here I've done a little bit of quilting. This block's not finished, but that's why it's quilt as you go. But to get that design down there, it took me 10 minutes, but to quilt it, following that wave back and forth really doesn't take much time at all.
Okay. And you adjusted the pressure off the foot.
I did all your steps.
Yep.
Did all of the things.
Right. So now here's 2 blocks being joined together, I believe. Which way are we going to go?
This way. Yeah. So 2 of the blocks, there's a block and another block, which was back here at the first one. But this is my sashing. So here's a little spacer strip in between here.
And you cut that.
That's because my finish size is just more continuation of the 3-inch squares.
Right. Yep.
So this strip here is 3.5 inches with the 2 1/4 inch seams.
Yep. Perfect.
We have in our collection of templates a 3-inch, a 2.5 inch, and the 2-inch piece sashing templates, which are the purple templates. So this triangle, you can see it, is that triangle Pauline was describing earlier.
Yep.
Using the template, grips onto your fabric, you cut your strips and you cut out your shapes, piece them together. We add the batting. Now that comes in place between the 2 blocks.
So you go through now and you put the glue at those intersections.
Yep. So I line everything up. The 2 blocks are joined square with the spacer strip. And that just allows me to put this sashing over the top exactly in position. And I glue each point down first. And then as you described, coming with the monopoly, stitch along that edge, moving my needle across, following that edge.
Okay.
Then putting the continuation of the pattern, of the quilting pattern, the design across, and quilting it up.
It's perfect. Perfect. So now here's a big section of the quilt that you've already got together that you need to share.
I'm not sure how we're going to show it. Luca, you might need to do
Adjust.
some,
Oh, there we go.
So it's going to be a fabulous quilt when it's finished, but you can't see where it's joined. You really need a magnifying glass to look up close to see how this quilt is joined together. He's done such a fabulous job of it. And it's going to be interesting to see the big king size quilt completely finished. So don't think that you can't convert a regular quilt pattern into Quilt as you go. Yeah, he's done an amazing job. So watch this space, because I think Simon will be making some amazing quilts in the future. He's got so many ideas, but let me tell you, this quilt's going to be mine.
I don't think they can see my head.
The shock.
But
But, you know, like every now and again, Simon would show me a block and he'd say, but I'm running out of this cream and I'm running out of this beige, or I'm running out of the teal. Can you get some more fabric while you're away? And I started thinking about this, and then I realized he's taking all the fabric out of my stash. So it's my fabric. So I think it should be my quilt.
yeah, but what do you always tell people about that guilt in their drawers where they have all of that fabric that
Too
they're
much
not
fabric.
using?
Yeah, get it out and use it.
Helping you with that guilt, I would
Yeah,
say.
yeah, true. But it is a beautiful quilt. Once this is completely finished and washed, you will not be able to see how it's been joined together. So the purple templates have been something we've been working on and talking about for a long time, but now we've got them out.
Yeah, let's show those one more time.
Right. And
Brown is the hardest color to find, isn't it?
yeah, you've been looking everywhere for more of
Been
that.
looking at it. The bows, those triangles. See the triangle? That's just what the sashings I used here, and the rectangle, because it comes back with the fold back to the square.
That's exactly right. So we've added all the turnbacks into the template. So you won't find templates like this anywhere else on the market. They are, no, I don't need that in my face. They are nowhere else on the market. They are available here at Aurora Sewing Center at their 3 stores, as is all of our products. And we're very delighted to be here teaching for them and showing all the wonderful things. And we're going to go shopping now because we've got a spare suitcase to take home.
Like 23 kilos.
Yeah, 23 kilos of fabric. Yay. Yay. And like everybody here in America, you're so lucky at the prices that you pay for everything. We can't believe it. Like back in Australia, we're paying around $28 to $31 for a meter of fabric, which is just a little bit less or more than a yard.
1 yard is 0.9
Yeah.
meters.
So we're paying double the price. The Hobbs fusible batting that we purchase in Australia sells for $45 equivalent yard. So it's so much cheaper here. So we're going to go shopping and fill our suitcases up. But we want to thank the whole team here at Aurora. We've just been treated with so much love and kindness and respect, and we've had a lovely, lovely time, and it's amazing to visit their 3 stores. I hope you're joining us tomorrow for our hands-on class. We're going to have a great time. It's going to be jam-packed full, but you're going to learn the quilting. You're going to learn to join your blocks together, quilt as you go, and we'll go through a lot more information than what we can ever cover in a session like this.
Yeah.
So
We've met a few of the people so far.
yes, we
come to the
have.
Trunk show,
Yeah,
so
we have. And a lot of people have booked in at the trunk show.
yeah.
They've gone home and they're getting all their preparation work, because there's not a lot of preparation work, but we want you to have your fabric cut out ready. So when we get to the class tomorrow, we set the machines up and we go straight into the designing the quilting designs and quilting the blocks. Then we'll join the blocks together.
Yeah. They'll all go away with confidence in quilting
Yes.
and learning the quilt as you go, ready to join in with the QISS quilt.
Yes. So remember, go to our website
www.pqw.com.au
and register.
Yep.
Fill out your details there so that we can send you an email on how to download all of the relevant notes and instructions we've written for you. And then you can go to our YouTube channel. You have this class forever. You can watch it whenever you want to refer back to make up. We suggest if you're not going to make the whole quilt, make some of the blocks so that you can learn that
Exactly.
technique.
Learn from it, and then whatever you want to make, you can go and make it.
And we're really delighted that we're talking to pattern designers all around now who are interested in our Quilt As You Go technique. And hopefully very soon you see the QISS over Simon's shoulder there, the big QISS with the red lips. That logo is what we want on different designers' quilt patterns. We want to QISS their patterns and help them convert their patterns into Quilt As You Go quilts, so that now people have two options of how to make their quilts. Make it as a whole quilt top, or break it down into smaller units and convert it to a Quilt As You Go. So watch that logo. We hope we're going to see that on lots of patterns real soon.
We've got some comments coming up.
Yes, a lot of love the logo. I've done a lot of quilts. It's been a wonderful education. Thank you. Lots of thank you. Here's ordered the sash. There's someone asked, what is the channel number again? Maybe they meant the website.
Maybe the YouTube.
Oh, maybe they meant the YouTube. So just Pauline's Quilters.
Yeah, Pauline's Quilters World, or
Yeah.
PQW.
Yeah, if you go onto YouTube and you just search PQW, Pauline's Quilt as well will be one of the first
That'll pop up.
first icons up
Yeah.
there. You can click
Yeah.
in there and watch.
And there's lots of videos, not just on our Quilt As You Go technique, but we design a huge arrangement of different products. Between Simon and I, we design them, we manufacture them ourselves at our little factory in Australia. We're very proud because not many things are made in Australia anymore, but we're very proud that we produce our products in Australia.
You'll see the little kangaroo on the top of your product there.
You'll know it's a genuine product developed by PQW. So we would love to have you join in and become part of our community. Let us teach you all about this. But come into your local Aurora store, because I think that's just amazing. We've been shocked, haven't we, with the amount of beautiful fabric that we've seen and all the products and the arrangement of machines. Oh my goodness me.
I think each store has had a different fabric range too. So
Exactly.
for your New York State shop,
Yeah,
hop,
yeah.
yeah, you want to come and get your stamp from
Yeah.
3
Yeah.
stores.
Yeah.
Someone
Yeah.
said
Oh, wow. Well, I hope everybody's safe in Brisbane, because we've got a huge cyclone. Brisbane has never, ever, ever had a cyclone hit it. But
Yeah,
this-
has your daughter said anything about that? Brenda?
Yes, Brenda.
Yeah, the cyclone is sitting there. It's due to impact tomorrow or Saturday, Australian
It's
time.
been hanging around for a while.
Everywhere's flooding because it's sending in all this rain. It's just sat out there for the last week or so, and it's just gaining intensity, but it's just pushing so much rain. I live up in the hills, 2 hours out of Brisbane, and every school, bridge, shop, everything has been closed. It's going to be so dangerous. So we're hoping we might have to stay another week.
Yeah.
We might be able to fly home. So we might have to stay at Aurora and do more work.
She is just prepping for it. Nothing as of yesterday.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just staying stationary now at the moment. So it'd be lovely if it went away and didn't cause any of the damage, but we have to be prepared for that. So we're thinking of your daughter, Brenda.
And Nancy, about the coupon code, everything should be in your Sewcial Club email. But if you need more information, reach out and I will get that to you.
Yeah, good. And don't forget, shop online at the special. Aurora's have got such a great special, like our bundle to get $65 off the 6 products that we recommend of our products. That's an amazing saving. So I'd jump online and order it now because, you know,
That
you can
with the
use it.
free education.
Yeah, with the free education. If you want to do the quilt, let them know that you want the fabric pack for the quilt, and I'm sure they'd do up a fabric pack for you to be able to
Sure
make the
would.
quilt. And the batting, don't forget the batting. Get the queen size pack, and then you're ready to go with the quilt. It's just beautiful. So thank you, everybody. I think we've
Who's that lady who said my sister-in-law
Oh,
was
yeah, she's
here from
yeah.
Melbourne and she stocked up on fabric.
oh,
Yeah.
good. Good on
She
you.
knows.
We'll be, if your sister-in-law is back in Melbourne, we'll be at the big AQC convention, which is in April. I'll be teaching there on the banana stand, and Simon will be working at our booth demonstrating, and I'll be in the classroom teaching. So come along and join us and say that you were over here in Buffalo visiting, and we can share all our experiences. And I'm loving the snow. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing your snow with us today. It was really good.
We're going to have to walk through it to get to the car.
That's good. That's good. That's good. We had to go out and buy extra warm clothes because when we went to the falls the other day, it was a beautiful sunny day on Monday. The sun was shining, but it was the most spectacular thing to experience that, wasn't it? It was just beautiful.
It was something to see.
Yeah.
A
yeah.
wonder of the world.
So yeah, so thank you everybody. We're going to say bye for now, and any questions we can help the girls here at the store answer them, and we'd love to stay in touch with you. So thank you for joining us. Hope you've got something out of it today, and all the best. And we want to quiz you, so happy quilting for now. Bye.
See you later.